Well, hello guys, this is Brandon, Little NC Farmer. I hope my resolution, I hope my preview, my video frame, I hope it's in focus, I hope everything's right. My phone is wanting to act up, I can't see a preview of what I'm looking at, so I'm not going to sit and fuss with it. But anyway, thought I'd come back to you again today and we'll just do a little chat time. I haven't done one of these in a while. I called them something different times, and it will be just a little bit. But while I have a break, we've been getting a lot of rain. Today is May the 12th, 2025, and while I had a break, I thought I would show you my peppers. I do have some bell pepper, banana pepper, and hot pepper here in the containers that you've seen me in years past I would grow onions in, and I want to get back to that as well. Uh, but real quick, we'll walk out there and I want you to see my peppers that I'm working on. Alright guys, we're out here now, and I have fertilized these a couple, maybe 3 times now. I just used triple 10 the last time I fertilized them, and then I have watered them with Miracle Grow, and they're due some more, and probably might do that today. I don't know if I get time, but these are, most of the ones I've shown you here are bell peppers, and then my banana peppers start right here, I believe, or they may be these two, right, these two and that one are banana peppers, and then I have some hot, those are supposed to be cayenne. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure what that's going to turn into. But one thing about peppers, they love water and they love nitrogen. So this is my first time growing them in containers, and so I'm curious to see how they're going to do with. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm running low. My chow chow, or green tomato relish, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it rummage salad too. But I'm running low on that, and I can't remember if I made any last year or not, but I get people requesting that from time to time, and so I want to make another batch. And if you will look out there, you can see my garden. There's nothing in it. It's bare, it's ready to go, but just waiting for it to dry out now. Thought I would show you these. There's about 60 to 70 tomato plants right there. Those are hybrid plants, waiting on the ground to dry out so I can get them planted. Now these are my Cherokee purples. I started them a little later, and so we're waiting on those to come up, and we've got to get those out. These are the Cherokee tan pumpkins. And so, like I say, guys, I wished I could have got those tomatoes in the ground last week, just prior to this rainfall, but it is what it is. So anyway, okay, I look like I'm pretty well zeroed in. I don't know what it's going to look like, but anyway, we'll go with it. But just thought I'd show you that and kind of show you where we're at. And if it comes a real heavy downpour, I may have to move indoors. So if you see the scenery change all of a sudden, you're going to know why. But now that's where we're at here. We've got the corn. You've seen that. My brother's corn, I haven't filmed that since the first video I did. We done a little short video planting it. and he is going to be ready to lay his by real soon, provided the ground dries out enough. And I'll probably be pulling those rolling cultivators off, putting the disc killers on, because I definitely want to lay that by with the Farmall. And the row spacing, that Farmall is set up on 42. I thought it was 48, and I told y'all wrong. I think I did back last year. It's 42 center to center on the back tires, and that's as close as I've ever had. Of course, I like it. I'm not against it, because really it gives you more garden space to have more rows. So I'm just going to run with it and keep it like it is. But it would be a problematic to try to cultivate it with my Ford. And I think the closest you can get those tires in is 48. I might be wrong about that. I'd have to look at the book, but I'm not going to go through all that trouble. But anyway, that's where that's at. And hopefully we've got beans, squash, cucumbers, okra, all those things, and then the field peas. And guys, last year I had a beautiful stand of peas. I mean, gorgeous. And I was so discouraged and disheartened. And one night the deer came in, and I mean, they murdered those peas. And that's why you didn't see no more videos. I was just ready to throw up my hands and quit. And I went ahead and mowed it down and turned the plants under, because I knew if I didn't do that, they would just keep coming in there, and they're not going to eat free off of me, and I'll get the nitrogen out of the plants. So that's what I did. I turned them under, and this got everything level back up, and we sowed creases and salad, like mustard greens and things of that nature. We did that in there, and and it turned out great. I mean, I was well pleased with that. But anyway, that's kind of where that's at. But we're really right now, our hands are tied. Can't really do anything in the mud. You just have to sit by and wait until it dries out. Now, according to the long range forecast, today and tomorrow and Wednesday are the three biggest chances, and then from there it dwindles down. There's just a slight chance about every day for the remainder of the month. Now, that's in our area here. I hope we get some. I know this, the temperatures is going to warm up, and the night times is going to be more moderate, seasonal. I think there's one night it's 55, the rest of the time it's in the 60s, low 60s. So that's perfect for, getting a garden started. And guys, that kind of brings me to the topic I want to talk about today. I hear a lot of people talk about it, and what to plant, or when to plant what. And I can't give you the answer where you live. I can only talk about where I am. And I think I've said this before. Here where I'm at versus the farm, I'm about 20 miles away, give or take a little bit. I've never really actually measured it. But it's a different climate here on this property than it is down there. And if you've been gardening any length of time in your lifetime, you understand what I'm talking about. Now, down there, I can get away with planting some things earlier than I could if I was here. It takes this little spot here behind the house, it takes it a little longer to dry out than it does that, specifically because of where it's located. It does not get very much morning sun. It gets a lot of late morning and early afternoon, and then by around 5, 6 o'clock, the sun's going down behind these trees and behind this mountain back here, and it's pretty much, it's out of the heat. And I think that's one reason that does so well. But talking about that, people ask the question a lot of times, well, when should I plant this and when should I plant that? Well, the first thing you need to know when you're doing that, or have that question, you need to know for your area, when is your average last frost date. That's very important. Now, there's a lot of early stuff like potatoes and onions and cabbage, garden peas or English peas, some people call them. Those things can take, beets is another one, they can take the cooler weather. They can't stand a hard freeze, but they definitely can take a light frost or, down in the 30s at night. Not over and over and over again, but it won't hurt them as bad. Um, you know, and knowing that date and how your temperatures moderate through the spring would be very beneficial to when you plant what. Now, I know a lot of people around here, I've got them in my family, and I know people that planted squash and okra and cucumbers probably, well, it was Easter weekend on Good Friday. And they said, I believe I got bad seed. No, you didn't get bad seed. It's not warm enough. The ground is not warm enough. That's in this area here now. It's not warm enough for those type of plants yet. You said, well, I planted them before. Well, maybe you have. Maybe it was because you had a warm spring. Just because you done it this year don't mean you'll be able to do it next year. Squash, cucumbers, okra, I call it okra. Okra, even your tomato plants. Now I've started those. Actually, those got started indoors for a couple of days, or I think maybe about a week till they sprouted, and I let them come up real good. Then I brought them out here, and they stayed under this carport area here, so they kindly hardened off or acclimated to my climate here. And that's another thing that's important that a lot of people won't do. But you're knowing what plants that you can do early, and knowing what plants that need and require 60 degrees or above, that is important. And your cucumbers, your squash, your okra, and even your green beans thrive better in those temperatures. And I like to watch my nighttime temperatures. I'm not so much as concerned with my daytime as I am the nighttime, because the nighttime is more important probably than any of them. And with tomatoes, you have to be careful with cutworms. And that's another reason I don't get in a hurry no more with stuff. I used to years ago. I just couldn't wait. I still can't do that. But I wanted to get that stuff in the ground and see it growing, and just couldn't wait to do it. And, and I've learned over the years, just don't be in no hurry, because you're wasting more time and materials, seed, fertilizer, fuel, whatever you need. If you're taking a risk like that, you're just wasting it. And I love to see my stuff come up and flourish. I can't stand to watch it just sit there and do nothing. Now that irks me, because I know something's wrong and I want to fix it. And so that's just my experience on that, and when to plant what. And there's all kinds of research you can do online, and I recommend getting some books, some gardening books and stuff. If you can find some vintage books, will really help. Uh, and knowing what type of minerals and what type of plant food to use on specific plants. That one is very important, and also your pH in your soil. Uh, I don't hear a lot of people talking much about that. Now, I have a pH tester, uh, and I'll like, I haven't checked it yet this year, but I need to check my garden out here to see what it needs. I haven't done that, and I even thought about, because they're free, you can do a soil test, and I thought about doing that on this one, and I know I need to do it down there on the farm, because that one does need some, it needs some minerals put to it, specifically probably nitrogen and lime, both of them, because I know it's been depleted over the years. But that's just some things I thought I'd share with you. Hope it'll help somebody. And that's about where we're at here, just waiting on the rain to quit and the ground to dry up. I know I had some folks, Swafford Homestead, uh, they have mentioned one of my recent videos that they're dealing with a lot of rain, and I think they're out in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I think all your rain has finally made it here across the mountain, and so now that's where we're at. And I'm gonna tell you, people disagree with me, do whatever they want to do. Too much rain is just as bad as not getting any at all. I'll say this much. Uh, I've had better and sweeter watermelons grown in a dry spell versus where they get tons of rain. People tell you a watermelon's got to have tons of water. You get too much on them, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to have. You're going to have watermelons splitting open. Ask me how I know that one. And they don't require as much as people might think. Now, they do extract a lot of water from the ground, but not in a short amount of time. They do it over a span of time. And they do need some, but they don't need to be flooded. And they won't have any taste, and they just won't be fit to eat. I can tell you that. Cantaloupes is the same way. Strawberries is another one that they will not do well in a rainy spell, and you'll get slugs starting getting on your strawberries too in a wet spell like that. But guys, that's just a few things. That's just some I've learned over the years. I can't put it in a book. But if wanting to know in your location, you need to know a little bit about your geography and the climate. In other words, when your last frost date is, when your nights start getting 60 and above. Those are some things that I would look at, and depending upon what you plant. Now, you can get away with corn and green beans. They do fairly well in a cooler climate, but your squash, your okra, and field peas. Let me get on this. Now, around here, we do not plant our field peas. Well, some people might, I don't know. But, I've always been taught we don't plant those until June, preferably around the middle to the end of June. And that way you start getting a good harvest in around the middle of August, end of August, somewhere on in there. But we don't plant those early. And I know y'all have heard this, that insects work in cycles. And if you plant them early, you will have wormy peas here. Now, if you're on the West Coast, or if you're down in the Gulf, or if you're up north like in Virginia, I don't know in your areas. I just know for right here in the central part of North Carolina, we cannot plant them early. They will be infested with worms, and they'll be no good for nothing. And so that's where we're at now. When I say field peas, I'm talking about like the Mississippi silver skins and the purple hull, Crowder peas, things of that nature. And the other one that I had last year, I wished I'd have showed y'all a video. I had the Red Rippers last year. And guys, I could pick a bushel off of one row down here in my garden. Or no, half a bushel, I'm sorry. I picked about a half a bushel off of that one row, and I had cattle panels up for it to run on, and it did absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was thrilled to death over that. But you know, that's where we're at right now. We're waiting on the rain, waiting on everything to dry out, warm up, and we're gonna get at it. And I can't wait. These tomato plants you saw over here, and I'm gonna put a row out here, and I'm strategically thinking about how I'm gonna place everything. But I want to do a row of them down on the farm, probably up above the sweet potatoes. That's the plan. And I'm hoping I can afford, I'm gonna need about 4 cattle panels to go across there. It probably won't reach completely across, but I get what I can and set most of those tomato plants out down there, hoping, you know, because I do need to ramp up my stockpile on tomatoes. And, you know, if I had the time and opportunity, I would love to try and make homemade ketchup again, because I love that. And that's a time consuming process, but I would love to be able to do that again. But anyway, guys, I know it's just me rambling. Thought I'd come on and talk to y'all. I appreciate my new subscribers, appreciate all my subscribers, and enjoy your comments, feedback, and everything. And you know, I was watching Pete yesterday with Just a Few Acres Farm. That's my Sunday afternoon ritual. I usually eat dinner. Now, we're in the South, and when we say dinner here, we're talking about 12 o'clock noon, okay? And if you want to call it lunch, all means call it lunch, but we just call it dinner. But I'll eat Sunday dinner after church, and then I'll go ahead and get relaxed and get comfortable, and I'll pull up Pete and maybe watch Joey, JT West, see what he's got going on, and maybe another one or two, and by that time I'm ready for my afternoon nap. And so, you know, that's just kind of my routine, you might say. And things have changed around here, guys. I know some of you probably noticed it, and some of you asked me about it and different things, but it's just me here, and I'm looking after myself pretty much. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And that's sort of changed. That's been a life-changing event. And, you know, it's something that I've had to adjust to. And so life goes on, and we make the best of it that we can. And I urge you to pray for me, pray for my sons, and the Lord knows the needs there. And that's all I'll say. And I know people's had questions and asked and different things, and I won't reply back or nothing. That's why, because I've said all needs to be said. And, you know, it's just life goes on. So anyway, guys, I've got to get off of here. I've got some things I've got to get done. And I appreciate each one of you. And Lord willing, we're going to have some more videos. I want to work on the tomatoes. I've got another project I want to do this fall. Want to get back into my onions again, and sowing those and having onions through the winter and watching them bulb out come springtime. And I'm really admiring Danny and Joey. I know Joey over here, JT West, he's got some beautiful onions coming along, and his garlic's doing well too. And, you know, I see these people do that. And so, but, you know, anyway, I've got to hush. I'll sit and ramble and on and on and on. But I do want to get me some onions started again. But I've got to get off here, guys, and get busy. And I hope y'all have a great week. I hope this is a great garden season for those of you that are doing that. And I hope all of you stay safe. So, till the next time, this is Brandon, Little NC Farmer. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.